Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Chef Alicia, and in this video you'll learn to make Asian meatballs. I'm going to start off here by cutting up some ginger. This is much more than I'm actually going to need for this recipe, but I am also cooking something else that requires ginger tonight, so I'm cutting up extra. The ginger that I'm cutting up here happens to be a little bit fibrous, so I'm going to be really careful as I'm cutting up to cut through all of those little fibers. In fact, one of them came out on my cutting board, and this is what it looks like. If you happen to have those really strong fibers in your ginger, you definitely want to make sure that you're cutting through them crossways, because they do not cook down and it will seem like you have little hairs in your food. So when you turn it the other direction, do make sure to cut tiny little pieces. Ginger is a pretty cool spice. It actually is a little bit spicy, like kind of hot, and it's really fragrant. It comes from the rhizome part of the plant. A rhizome is just a horizontal underground stem that puts out shoots and roots. It's kind of cool, and actually bamboo and asparagus fall into this category as well, but we eat the above ground part of asparagus, of course. Onto my green onions. I want to have about a cup for this recipe. For me, that took 6 green onions. I'm using the white part as well as the green part, and you just want to cut these into nice thin little slices. Moving right along, I have 3 cloves of garlic, and I just want to show you a little trick, which is if you use the back side of your knife, so this is not the sharp side of my knife, and kind of go to the edge of your cutting board, when you're pushing down on the garlic, it almost minces itself. So I'm going to show you a little close up here. You can see again, I'm not using the sharp side, I'm using the other side, and then I just kind of flip over my knife and go over the rest. Onto my meat. Here I have a pound of pork as well as a pound of ground sirloin, and I'm going to come back to that in just a second. I added a teaspoon of kosher salt, and I'm also going to add in 2 teaspoons of sesame oil. The next thing I'm adding in is my garlic along with that tablespoon of ginger and all of my green onions. Then I'm going to add in a half of a cup of Panko breadcrumbs, which I will come back to in just a second as well. I'm also going to add in 2 eggs. The 2 eggs are going to help bind everything together because you don't want your little meatballs to be falling apart. I'm going to go ahead and start mixing this up. So panko breadcrumbs are very light and airy in their texture. The white panko is made from crustless white bread, and the flakes are a bit drier and flakier than regular breadcrumbs. They also absorb less oil, which means that they make a lighter and crunchier fried food when you use them for that. They're traditionally used in Japanese cooking, and 2 of the dishes that they're used in pretty often are chicken katsu as well as tonkatsu. As you're going through this, if you happen to come across any of this silver skin, which looks like this, you want to go ahead and remove that because we don't want that in our meatballs. I came across a little bit. I don't normally have a lot, but there it was. My daughter has come over here to rescue me with a little bit of pepper because my hands obviously have meat on them and I didn't want to contaminate my pepper grinder. But you want to add freshly ground black pepper and go ahead and continue mixing that up. When you're mixing, resist the urge to like grab it and squeeze it because you're going to heat up the fat, which will end up making your meatballs a little bit tougher and a little bit drier. So again, just resist the urge. The next thing that we need to do is roll our little meatballs. For me, I'm serving this as an appetizer, so I want to make them pretty small, almost bite-sized. So I'm thinking like cotton ball size, maybe just a teeny tiny bit bigger because they're going to shrink down only slightly because we use that lean meat. They're not going to shrink a ton, but just a little bit. Here they are on my sheet pan, all lined up like little soldiers and ready to go into the oven at 400 degrees. Mine took 14 minutes and I flipped them halfway through. If you're making them bigger, obviously they're going to take a little longer. Here I am adding them into some teriyaki sauce. This is my homemade teriyaki sauce, and I will leave you a link to the recipe, but you could definitely use a bottled sauce if you would like to. If you're not putting these into teriyaki sauce, I want you to add an extra teaspoon of salt way back when you were adding in the salt, but I knew I was putting them in this kind of salty sauce, so I kind of reduced my salt a bit for this recipe. I'm going to leave these in this pan because I'm serving these at a party, and this way when people are getting ready to arrive, I can just heat them up and put them out on a serving platter and I don't dirty another bowl. So I've cooled these and they are going to go chill in my fridge until I'm ready for my party. And this is what they looked like when they were all plated up for my party.